Thanks for joining us.
Hey, McGraw Kelly, nice to be with you.
Will you be in town for the president's trip today?
I will not. We are working today and trying to get a bill passed on community banking, trying to make it easier for bankers, to make it easier for Main Street to get the money they need to make the economy grow. So I'm here working on that, but I think the president's going to be at Boeing talking about the tax bill. And as people are seeing their first checks with the tax bill, I think they're more and more excited about what that means to their family. And obviously they're learning more and more that this actually does apply to them, no matter what they heard during the debate on the tax bill, and it's more than just crumbs.
All right, so I'm going to try and keep focused on the actual news and stay away from the silly stuff out there. And let's talk about tariffs, because Boeing uses steel, Boeing uses aluminum. A lot of Missourians use aluminum and steel. Where are you on these tariffs, and are you worried about possibly a trade war, which would be devastating for the state?
Well, I am, and I've told the president that in the Oval Office, and I've told the president that in the cabinet room on a live televised event in the cabinet room that I was at, and I am worried about a trade war. And of course, if you do have countries responding, they normally respond with what we're the best at, which is commodities and food and beef and pork, and those things hit Missouri very directly. At the same time, we are trying to get this aluminum plant going again in southeast Missouri. Nucor just announced a new steel facility in Sedalia. So it's not like we don't make aluminum and don't make steel, but we also make airplanes and cars and bass boats and beer cans. And I think we have a problem here if we don't work for a way to open markets to our products rather than closing markets to other products.
Without getting into the specifics, when you explain this to the president, does he understand? Does he respond? Does he tell you you're crazy? What's his response?
Well, he definitely understands my view on this, and I appreciate the chances I've had to talk to him and the trade ambassador and the commerce secretary and others about this. I happen to think that this is not the best policy, but there are clearly 2 points of view here, and he just happens to have the one that he talked a lot about during the campaign. And the politics of trade and tariffs and closing down trade and talking about this costing American jobs, always, I understand the politics of this and understand why they are what they are. But if NAFTA, for instance, Missouri would be the 5th most impacted state if we walked away from our NAFTA trade opportunities. Trade produces opportunities for us in ways that are often underappreciated. But let's go back to the tariff instead of just the trade. Again, we have workers that we hope are going to be making more aluminum here soon, and they've got a special utility rate that I'm supportive of that allows them to do that. We have workers that make steel, but we have a whole lot more workers that make things that include steel and include aluminum, and just like the country does, there are many, many times more jobs of workers who are dependent on competitive prices in steel and aluminum than workers who make steel and aluminum. And I think it's dangerous territory to be in, but that's where we're headed. On the other hand, let's finish this. On the other hand, this may not turn out to be what it initially appeared to be. The president's moving in this direction based on national security. As it turns out, not only do we still make the vast preponderance of our steel and aluminum, but even more importantly, virtually everything we buy is from countries that are our close allies, like Canada and the European Union, and I don't think you can make the national security argument. So we may be a long way from seeing these tariffs actually implemented.
Let me ask you about the Iran deal. With the change of Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State, this Iran deal, I guess, is front and center. Are you in favor of staying in it, getting out? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I thought the Iran deal was terrible at the time. I vigorously opposed it. I think it puts Iran on a certain path unless the government of Iran would change and change dramatically to have a nuclear weapon. If we haven't learned our lesson from North Korea, I don't know when we're going to learn this lesson. And so I've never supported the Iran agreement. I think it imperils Europe and the Middle East even more than it does us, and I'd like to see us not continue to let Iran do what Iran is doing. I'm for walking away from the Iran deal, but I'm even more for putting barriers outside of the Iran deal on Iran. We need to continue to push back in their ballistic missile activity and other activity. But there's no question that, Iran, North Korea, Iran would be right up there at the top of the two places in the world that we should worry the most about every day. And certainly from, I don't think I'm disclosing anything from the Intel Committee to say that there is no issue over the last 3 years we've spent more time on than a nuclear North Korea. We'd spend the same amount of time if we allow a nuclear Iran.
Can you negotiate some type of deal with North Korea while you pull out of the Iran deal? I mean, are you in favor of talks with North Korea? And can you cut a deal with North Korea while you're pulling out of the other deal you made with Iran?
Well, nobody else has been able to make a deal with North Korea that North Korea would stick to, and I would hope the president understands that as he goes into this negotiation. I actually think the tough talk and the tough position he's taken with North Korea has made a difference. 3 administrations, Clinton, Bush, and Obama, all let North Korea get to where they are today, and with the first 2 making agreements that should have worked both times with North Korea, but that takes North Korea being willing to keep its word. We haven't ever seen that so far. I think continued pressure on North Korea through China and in every other way we can think of is really important, and it is the most critical issue, I think, right now of the 2, Korea and Iran. But clearly Secretary Pompeo, if he becomes Secretary of State, has had a view very similar to mine on Iran, and I think the president is in agreement with that view, and we'll see where that takes us.
Senator Roy Blunt, you're always welcome here. Safe travels. Get back to work.
Hey, great to talk to both of you. Look forward to